Football, the sport that captivates billions worldwide, boasts a history far richer than many realize. Its origins are deeply rooted in the ancient past, where various cultures developed their own unique versions of the game. Long before massive stadiums and global superstars, ancient civilizations engaged in their own versions of the beautiful game. These early forms of football were not just pastimes, but were often deeply embedded in the social and cultural fabric of their societies. In China, around the 2nd and 3rd centuries BC, a game known as Cuju emerged. This game is one of the earliest known forms of football and was played with great enthusiasm. This ancient sport involved two teams competing to kick a leather ball filled with feathers and hair into a small net. The skill required to control and maneuver the ball was highly regarded. Cuju gained immense popularity during the Han Dynasty, even finding its way into military training manuals. Soldiers practiced Cuju to improve their physical fitness and coordination, which were essential for combat.
Across the globe, the Roman Empire reveled in Harpastum, a game with similarities to rugby. This game was a favorite among Roman soldiers and civilians alike. Two teams, each with a designated ball carrier, would clash in a physical contest for possession. The game was known for its rough and tumble nature, requiring both strength and strategy. The objective was to carry the ball across the opponent's goal line, showcasing both strength and strategy. Harpastum was not just a game, but a test of endurance and tactical thinking.
Meanwhile, in Japan, Kemari offered a more elegant and ceremonial approach to ball games. This game was less about competition and more about grace and skill. Dating back to the 7th century, Kemari involved players passing a ball amongst themselves, aiming to keep it aloft for as long as possible. The game was often played in the courtyards of Shinto shrines. This graceful display emphasized teamwork and precision, highlighting the diverse interpretations of ball games throughout history. Kemari was a reflection of Japanese culture, valuing harmony and cooperation.
These ancient examples demonstrate that the human fascination with kicking and controlling a ball transcends time and culture. From the bustling streets of ancient China to the disciplined fields of Rome and the serene courtyards of Japan, ball games have always been a part of human life. Cuju, Harpastum, and Kemari, though vastly different in their rules and objectives, laid the groundwork for what would eventually evolve into the modern game of football. Each of these games contributed unique elements that can still be seen in football today. They serve as a reminder that the sport we cherish today owes a debt to the ingenuity and passion of those who came before us. The evolution of football is a testament to the enduring human spirit and our love for the game.
As centuries passed and civilizations transformed, so too did the games people played. From the ancient ball games of the Greeks and Romans to the more structured sports of the modern era, the evolution of games reflects the changing nature of society itself. In medieval Europe, a raucous and chaotic form of folk football emerged, known as mob football. This was not just a game, but a wild, unrestrained event that captivated entire communities. Unlike the structured games of antiquity, mob football involved virtually no rules and often descended into a free-for-all. There were no referees, no time limits, and no standardized playing fields. The game was as unpredictable as it was exhilarating. Entire villages would participate, with hundreds of players crammed into streets and fields, all vying for control of a rudimentary ball. The ball itself could be made of anything from an inflated pig's bladder to a leather-bound sphere. The sheer scale of mob football made it a spectacle to behold, albeit a dangerous one. The lack of rules meant that anything could happen, and often did. Injuries were common, and the game could quickly turn violent.
With no boundaries or regulations, the game could spill through towns and countryside, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Shops could be looted, property damaged, and bystanders caught in the crossfire. Players employed any means necessary to move the ball, resulting in frequent brawls, injuries, and even occasional fatalities. The game was as much about physical prowess as it was about strategy, with brute force often winning the day. Despite its chaotic nature, mob football held a significant place in medieval society. It was more than just a game, it was a social event that brought people together regardless of their social standing. It provided a rare opportunity for commoners and nobles alike to engage in a shared activity, albeit one fueled by adrenaline and a healthy dose of mayhem. The game served as a great equalizer, if only for a short time.
The game also served as a release valve for societal tensions. allowing participants to vent their frustrations in a physical, if unrefined manner. In a world where social hierarchies were rigid and opportunities for expression limited, mob football offered a rare outlet for pent-up emotions. However, as the medieval period gave way to the Renaissance, the unruly nature of mob football began to fall out of favor. The Renaissance brought with it a renewed interest in order, discipline, and the rule of law. Calls for order and structure grew louder, paving the way for a more refined and organized version of the beautiful game to emerge. This transition marked the beginning of modern football, with its codified rules and organized leagues, setting the stage for the global phenomenon we know today.
The 19th century witnessed a transformative period for football as efforts to codify the game gained momentum. This era marked the beginning of a journey that would eventually lead to the modern versions of football and rugby that we know today. In England, public schools played a pivotal role in this evolution. These institutions were not just centers of learning, but also breeding grounds for the development of organized sports. Eager to channel the energy of mob football into a more structured activity, they began establishing their own sets of rules. This was a significant departure from the chaotic and often violent nature of mob football, which had little in the way of formal regulations. Eton College, Harrow School, and Rugby School emerged as pioneers in this regard, each developing variations of the game with distinct rules and regulations. These schools were instrumental in shaping the early forms of the game, each contributing unique elements that would influence the sport's future. These schools recognized the value of teamwork, strategy, and fair play, concepts largely absent from the chaotic realm of mob football. The emphasis on these principles helped to transform football into a more disciplined and organized sport.
As these schools refined their respective versions of the game, a clear division began to emerge. This division was not just about the rules, but also about the philosophy and style of play that each school favored. Some schools, like rugby, embraced the physicality and continuous play of mob football, allowing players to carry the ball with their hands. This approach led to a more aggressive and dynamic style of play, which would eventually evolve into the sport of rugby. Others, like Eton and Harrow, favored a game focused on kicking and dribbling, prohibiting the use of hands except for designated players. This style of play emphasized skill and precision, laying the groundwork for what would become modern football, or soccer as it is known in some parts of the world.
This pivotal period of experimentation and rulemaking laid the groundwork for the two distinct sports we know today, football and rugby. The rules and styles developed during this time were crucial in defining the identity of each sport. While both shared common roots in the chaotic world of mob football, their paths diverged as they embraced different interpretations of the game's fundamental elements. This divergence allowed each sport to develop its own unique characteristics and cultural significance, enriching the world of sports as we know it today.